Hey, g'day. Right, better get this warning over and done with quickly. Viewers are warned that the following may contain images and audio of politically incorrect thermometer data. Flickering reality may trigger indoctrinated episodal misanthropics. Okay, in the last video we had a look at the massive damage to a wide area caused by missing data, what they call data sparse area. We saw that the Bureau of Meteorology realised that data sparseness is a problem, and we saw that they used misleading pretty colours to show us something which was unrelated to a heat wave that was completely missing from their maps. Now today we're going to see that, fully aware of the problem that data sparseness can cause, that the Bureau of Meteorology have lost more than one or two measurements from one particular record. They seem to have lost 44 years worth of it. So first let's get familiar with degrees Fahrenheit. Here on Google, if we type a number in and then degrees F to C, it will convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Now this is a ridiculously high number. 128 degrees Fahrenheit converts to 53.3 degrees Celsius. Very, very hot. From the newspapers in 1861, we read about the explorer John McDouall Stewart and his party having quite a hot day there. The storeman of the group writes to his parents, "The thermometer stood yesterday in the shade 128 degrees. And so that we know that wasn't a sun affected temperature, he says, in the sun 173. This morning at 5 o'clock it was down to 43 degrees, cold enough to starve a fellow to death. This is the most changeable place I was ever in. It is never 2 hours alike." Now of course we know it wasn't 128 degrees Fahrenheit out there every day. In fact, every day that there was no explorers present, it was just perfectly average. And 53 degrees is 14.5 degrees C hotter than anything recorded on the same day in December last year. Now that place where that was recorded, it's a bit south of William Creek, and William Creek post office opened in 1896. We can see from the South Australian Register, 15th of October 1896. Strangeway Springs Parcel Post Office closed. Strangeway Springs Telegraph Office opened William Creek. And from one of my favourite books, Meteorological Observations made at the Adelaide Observatory and other places in South Australia and the Northern Territory, 1896, we see the same thing. Station closed in September 1896. Instruments transferred to William Creek, 23 miles north-northwest of Strangeway Springs. Now, from about 1884, led by Clement Wragge in Adelaide, the state meteorologists started installing Stevenson screens and standardising on those, but it's an expensive and difficult thing to go everywhere in the country and do it quickly, so they simply couldn't do it quickly. They did it to places they were going to anyway, or new installations. Well, that's a new installation. Down the bottom here it says, each of these stations, with the exception of Clare, is furnished with a mercurial barometer of either the Fortin Construction or the Board of Trade type. Every station except Fowler's Bay has dry and wet bulb maximum and minimum thermometers mounted on a modified form of the Greenwich stand, similar to that at Adelaide, or a Stevenson screen. So we can be fairly certain that William Creek from September 1896 was Stevenson screen. And later on the 10th of January 1920, the government were confident enough of the data from William Creek to use 2 years of it in court. We can see that from the Daily Herald, Adelaide, 10th of January 1920. 1932, Thursday 18th of February, the papers tell us, Mr. B.W. Newman of Adelaide Weather Bureau left for the interior today. The primary object of his trip is to inspect the new location of meteorological instruments at Alice Springs. He will also examine the instruments at Port Augusta, William Creek and other stations along the route. So we know it was checked again in 1932. You'll see at the bottom of this video in the comments section, if I can fit them in, about 30 other references over the years to William Creek, but the locals got to know that it was a very hot place. There were jokes about it in the newspapers, and it's even mentioned as far up as 25th of October 1940, where they're talking about it being 112 degrees Fahrenheit on the 22nd. So there we have one incredibly long record. And if we go to the very long, hot, old record, if we go to the Bureau of Meteorology page, and we'll get there from the home page. Oh, it's going to be -5 tomorrow. We'll click here on the climate data online. We'll have a look at temperature, and we'll click monthly because they don't always have daily data. We'll type in William Creek and see if it can find it. There it is, and we'll have a look at closed stations, and there isn't one within 150 kilometres of it. Nothing. Oh well.